All right, everyone, another shot across the bow from the Trump administration, this time aimed at Minnesota, specifically a program incepted by Tim Walz, which is probably not coincidental. Just saying, I think we can put two and two together with that one, which is the TPS system in Minnesota. Somalis in Minnesota, which have been causing a lot of problems lately because, you literally have street gangs comprised of that particular ethnic group, strong-arming people. You have an infiltration apparently into the police department at this point in some parts of Minnesota. That program effectively gave a favored status to people specifically from Somalia, which is kind of racially discriminatory when you think about it, in order to allow them to stay in the state and to work and live and get benefits and stuff like that, mostly benefits, and at a whim. This program has now been struck by an executive order. We'll see if the courts decide to get involved. They'll probably smack it down and say, no, Mr. Trump is not allowed to remove this taxpayer-funded, assistance program, basically. No, because we say so. They don't even cite case law in some of these cases at this point. That one case a couple years ago about gun control where the judge hauled off on gun owners and literally provided no substantial evidence for the basis of the actual claim that was being made. I can't remember which case that was. I think that was in Illinois, if I remember correctly. Or was it Washington State? It was one of the two, I believe. But in this particular case, you've got a group that is specifically given favored status over other immigrants. In some cases, these are illegal immigrants, simply stating, hey, Somalia is a rough country. It's full of violence and stuff. So we're going to let the Somalis come over here because quite clearly there's no possibility that the corruption and violence possibly follow. And the program was being defrauded on a routine basis anyway. People who were actually not of Somali heritage, for example, utilizing the same protected status. Because the program was so monumentally corrupt and hemorrhaging money, Trump decided to shut it down. Again, we'll see what the courts have to say about it. I have a feeling they'll do the activist judge thing and say, no, Donald Trump does not actually have the ability to deport illegals. At this point, I wish that a court would just come out and be honest and say, I don't like the fact that Donald Trump has any power at all. So he's not allowed to do anything. He can't even take a shit without my court being aware of it. He has to photograph his poop in order for us to accept the shit that he just took. It makes absolutely no sense to me. It's amazing that people are putting up with this, by the way. As far as Minnesota goes, though, at least for now, the TPS system has effectively been ended. This is, in my opinion, a good thing. People should not be incentivized to defraud the system. What you're going to end up with, let's say you set this up. You've got asylum seekers, refugees and shit from some third world nation. And so you say, okay, we're going to show you large S. We're basically going to look the other way. We're going to give you basically a temporary status, and as long as you're not doing anything else wrong, everything's fine. Now, this, in principle, is a good thing. In principle, you're saving people, they're law-abiding, everyone wins, right? The problem, and we've seen it before, is that people will come in and they do not have good intentions. And they will afflict those communities. And they, because they are violent, warlords in some cases quite literally, and cartel members, they will suppress that community and subjugate them. And so you end up with drugs and trafficking and terrorism and all of these other problems. We have seen this before. Unassimilated, isolationist communities do not function well in nations like the United States. They end up forming ghettos. They end up forming their own hood, so to speak. Now, if you have an assimilated minority, like Italians used to be, I mean, minus the whole mafia thing, eventually things smooth out. They're assimilated, they're speaking the same lingo, they're following the same laws, they consider themselves part of this larger civic community. What we're seeing now, though, is because of the sheer scale of illegal immigration to the United States, you're ending up with communities that are not even bothering to assimilate. These isolated communities police themselves, They have their own fucking court systems effectively. In some cases, you have literal Sharia courts, which should be banned outright. You have all of these other problems. You've got a community which is enormous, and this community doesn't have any external pressure to assimilate at all. Well, then they're just going to act like they're in Somalia, basically, a colder version of Somalia. By the way, why the fuck? If you're from a climate like Somalia, why the hell would you go to Minnesota? I have no clue. I don't want to go to Minnesota, and I'm cold hardy because I'm a Vermonter. Minnesota takes it to the next level. You get that lake effect or something like that. It could be a real fucking problem. Imagine. Also, Minnesota, nice state, just overrun, a little bit like a cheeseless version of Wisconsin, I suppose. This is the right thing to do because in this particular case, you have a very, very large ethnic community that effectively is withdrawing itself from the United States and almost becoming separatist more than anything else. When I watched the video, for example, of that dude, he had the Quran and he was assaulted while trying to burn it, and then he slapped bacon all across it, and then he got assaulted again. The police didn't do anything. Meanwhile, they were busy arresting some other counter-protester against the pro-Gaza people there, actually. They arrested him. They never arrested the people that are literally on camera committing several crimes at the time. They looked the other way. They also ignored a lawful, command to give their badge number. That is, it's lawful to ask an officer their badge number. They're supposed to tell you. In this particular instance, they decided, it's no big problem. That's because the courts are also run by the same insular ethnic group. And so they're slowly pressing everybody else out of the community. They're forming effectively a microstate. This has been happening for years. And people will call you racist if you point this out, but it's like, it's literally happening. You can see it. You can literally observe it for yourself. What are you talking about? Meanwhile, if too many white people move into the neighborhood, it's labeled gentrification and evil and wrong, and well, they're forcing us out of our own hood. Yeah, that does happen. Absolutely. But when you point that out, nobody has a problem with it. It's the tale of two cities, all over again. Nothing but hypocrisy. So yeah, TPS is gone. Good riddance. That's about all. Peace out.